resume. I believe it's recording.
I did get a notice that you were
the message came up at the bottom saying the recording was in progress, and I hit OK.
Yeah, I got the same.
Have you seen this?
Yeah, I
Okay.
got the same notice. It's recording on, the red light is on. So
Okay. Okay. So we're going to, once we complete our board reports, we'll move into a robust discussion. Starting off on the discussion will be one on 600 West North Avenue. We have folks from MCB and Blank Slate Real Estate. Thank you so much for joining tonight. Then after that discussion, we'll be having a conversation with St. Francis Neighborhood Center, who's going to be sharing some information about a proposed land swap with the city. And then, as always, we'll end that meeting with any announcements that community members would like to make for the good of the group, and then we'll close out for the evening. So I'll begin with sharing that we did, St. Francis invited us to a walking tour a couple of weeks ago, I think it was, Torben, and showed us the site of St. Francis. We also got a little sneak peek into some of their renovations, and that was really lovely. I know they're planning an open house. Torben, I'm so sorry. I have been out with the flu, and he did send me the dates of that open house, but I failed to put that on my slide. But if later you can mention that in your presentation, I'd really appreciate that. Or now, since you're unmuted, you can go ahead.
I do have it shared. I could just share that now.
Okay.
I got to send a request in order to share, but
Oh no, yeah. So you can do like a full presentation later because we just need to like go through these. So you have enough time. We don't want to keep everyone on the meeting too long, but if you could just share that open house date, because I know people really want to know a little bit more about the groundbreaking and everything like that. So that was a really fruitful and helpful meeting. So shout out to St. Francis for organizing that walking tour. It was really helpful in preparation for this evening. And we also have been continuing work on the BP working group. And Carson Ward, the chair of the working group, wanted to share that there are now two distinct groups with the BP working group. There is a working group which does action and who will be doing letter writing campaigns and FOIA requests and people. It's for folks that can donate their time to moving for the issue around Amtrak. They are working on finding a new time. It used to be Wednesdays. That's going to be moving to a once a month meeting. So if you want to be a part of that, email BPWG chair and she will put you in that loop at reservoirhillassociation.org. And then separately, it's the BP Tunnel Network, which is going to be a mailing list or is a mailing list already, which is the BPWG at reservoirhillassociation.org. That's for folks you just want updates. You want to know when there's meetings, if there's any changes to construction, and that's how you're going to receive that information. So if you want to join the network, that's how you do it there. So those are the only two announcements that I have. I'm going to then pass it over to Drika.
All right, good evening, everyone. I don't have much either. Well, I was also part of the walking tour, with St. Francis of the land swapping. And I understand that, of course, we're going to get into that a little bit later with him. Also, I've attended a couple meetings kind of outside of the community. I was up at the Upton development community, and there's a lot of development going on, even though it's not in Reservoir Hill, it's still adjacent to where we live, and they're doing massive development on Druid Hill. Several homes are going up there or renovated. Down on Division Street, there's like 9 homes that's being renovated there. They're still working on the Parks and Recreation, still working on the which I was found out through our council person, that I think it's with Robert Coleman, whatever, that in Sandtown, that is our recreational center that they're working on now, which I did not know at the time, that Reservoir Hills Recreational Center is in Sandtown. They're doing the couple Perry Mitchell's property, his mom's home over there near Harlem Avenue. There's some more renovations being done on McCullough. And they also looking for someone who the Pennsylvania Main Street quarter is looking for someone who might have some experience in commercial acquisition of homes. What they're finding that along Pennsylvania Avenue, there's a lot of properties that are owned by absentee landlords, and they are trying to acquire those properties from these absentee landlords, and they're looking for someone who might have some experience in helping uh, try to regain those properties from these landlords. So if anybody's interested in that, I can provide the information to you about for that. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerika. Lisa?
Hi, I just want to, and of course I'll be short. I'm still in the midst of finishing transcribing the meeting notes. I wasn't sure if the meeting notes are going to be accessible to the general public, or is it just to RHA membership? Because I'm gonna have, just for privacy, right, act concerns, I might have to go back and take out names and things like that, depending upon who has access. So I just realized that late in the game, but I finished the entire year of 2024. I think I have just some for 2023. And I think, and I started back, as you suggested during the last meeting, like our most recent meeting, so that we could have better follow through with respect to, what our goals and objectives are during the meeting. And just going through the transcription that I've created, I can see why that would be effective. So I will finish those up by tomorrow. And they'll be online so that you'll be able to access them and keep up in case you miss a meeting. And attendance, if I could add for anybody who's in the meeting tonight, if you could put your first and last name up, or at least send me a text. Not a text, but just a note in the chat so that I make sure that I have everybody accounted for who's in attendance tonight and going forward, because that will affect whether you have the ability to vote on some issues that may be of concern for you. So I just want to make sure that our attendance notes are accurate and that everybody is accounted for. And we appreciate everybody coming to the meetings as well. And I think that's it.
So thank you, Lisa. I think to answer your question about privacy, this is somewhat of a public forum. So whatever is said in these meetings is recorded and it's put online, and so are the notes from those meetings. So for example, newspapers in the past have used recordings from our meetings to write articles.
Oh, perfect.
So this is a very public forum for everyone who speaks tonight and who's on camera. Just know that, yes, it is published, it's online, it's available, it's of record. And we try to provide the meeting notes online and the minutes because we have in the past had to use them to kind of back up claims that have been made by people who have either presented or discussed things with us and then have changed what they presented to the community. And so we need that record for that purpose, or, for the mere purpose of just keeping track of what we're saying and what's going on to keep the board accountable too. So it's a two-way thing, right, for the community and for us. And that's something we've committed to. So yes, it's public. So don't worry about that. But, if we want, and if the membership thinks it's appropriate, maybe it is something that we want to very clearly state at the beginning of the meeting and make very transparent at the beginning of every meeting that this is recorded. There is going to be a transcript, and the transcript's going to be online.
Yeah, I think that actually covers it right there. Now that you say that, it covers it. And I don't know why I actually even got concerned about it.
No, I mean, because you're an ethical person. Because you're an ethical person, it's a good thing to be concerned about. Okay, Chet.
Good evening, everyone. This first slide here has our current bank balance and the year-to-date expense or income and expenses. We have a little over $20,000 in the bank right now. Our income this from January 1st so far is $176 and change for dues payments, and we've had a couple service fees for the website, which is the $22, $8.02 is the PayPal fees, and then $76.20 was for our accounting software. That's an annual charge. So we have we're net $69, almost $70 for the year to date since January. And if you go to the next slide, there's a summary of 2024. Overall, we netted $7,678.34 during the fiscal year. There's a breakdown on the screen for anybody who wants to see it about the garden and home tour, income and expenses, etc. I emailed out tax donation letters a little while before the meeting. I apologize for the delay on that. But if you donated through a check or PayPal or Cash App, you should have received an email message with that tax letter for you. If you donated through PayPal, generally I use the email address that's registered with PayPal. So if you don't have it in the email you normally use, check your PayPal account. And if there are any questions about that, or if you have any concerns, please email me or let me know otherwise. And there's a QR code on the upper right of the hand of the screen if you'd like to donate your dues for the year or for a monthly donation. Anything you want to do, just go to that QR code or go to our website and get info on that.
Thank you, Chet. And our annual dues are still $12.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to keep going because we're short on time. We usually do a brief piece on the historic folks. Janae.
Hi. So thank you so much. I've got a shaky connection and I may need to use a contingency plan. So Daryl will step in case I get cut off. But nonetheless, we are actively working on planning activities for our annual 29th annual historic Reservoir Garden and Home Tour. So we are going to add a second date for planning purposes so that we can extend our runway for getting everything organized. And so we have our logo, our colors, our theme all together. You're going to start seeing save the date notifications, and we are going to start sending invitations to hosts to feature their space on the tour. So all of the dates for the planning meetings are on our RHA community calendar. So stay tuned. Reach out if you would like to participate in any capacity, but our next meeting is scheduled for the 13th of February. We're not going back in time, but nonetheless, this upcoming Thursday. So please come out if you would like to assist with this wonderful event. Turning it back over to you, Keandra.
Thank you, Janae. And up next is Lauren.
Good evening. The Big Jump was a really successful event. Thanks to Darnell and Rolando. I saw them. They were out working. I made connections with someone on the GRIA board who has offered to support our tree planting effort this spring. We met last night, the Green Committee, and we are gonna potentially meet up with the GRIA this weekend and walk the community and see where we may want plants and trees in Reservoir Hill. They get a tree grant every year, and they said that they could add up to 30 trees on their account to plant in Reservoir Hill. But we need to identify where we need these trees planted and get that information back to him so he can submit his grant. Yeah, so we I did hear back from 311 the changes that are relevant to the dumpster days. They call it pitch in. So it's the campaign is called the pitch in campaign. We were before appointing one particular individual to handle the pitch-ins. Now the new thing is anybody in the organization can order the pitch-in dates, can make the call. First come, first serve. However, there's still only 4 days a year, and they can only be submitted two at a time, two in the first half, two in the second half. The first 2 days for our community are March 15th. The second day is May 24th. I try to get May 31st for Janae for the Home and Garden Tour, but they said the 31st was not available. They said the weekends that the pitch-ins are not limited to weekends either. So we can schedule a weekday if ever need be. When scheduling, the first 2 days of the year have to be submitted between January 1st and June 1st. And the second 2 days you can start. So we have 2 days. We can only solicit 2 days at a time. And the second 2 days, we'd be able to call in anytime after June 1st to secure our next two pitch-ins. So those were the changes that they had us on hold for.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's pretty much any updates that I can think of. If Darnell is on the phone, he will be circulating a questionnaire coming from the Green Committee. I'm going out as an email blast to find out. It's just 8 questions. If there any talent in the community, if they have a talent or a skill, if they have any interest, anything that would lend interest to the Green Committee. So Darnell, I don't know if he's on the call, but he's gonna circulate that questionnaire via Green Committee.
Yep, I'm on the call, and you characterize it just right. So that should be coming out soon, probably this week. So stay on the lookout.
Thank you both.
All right.
Okay. Daryl, and just time check, we are 1 minute over time. So if we can keep our announcements to under a minute, if possible, that'd be great. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. Marketing committee is working on the garden home tour. We have the main event image, watermark, save the date cards, print ready. The save the date messaging has gone out to social media channels. We've completed a comprehensive marketing plan, a social media calendar plan, a press release, a tour poster, web banner, and social media decks and reels, of which there's a couple of examples on the next 2 slides. Marketing committee's next meeting is the February the 20th. If you have any questions, marketing@reservoirhillassociation.org. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Daryl. Arlen.
Good evening, everyone. The Planning and Development Committee is pretty much caught up in everything we've had to take care of. Right now, we're waiting for the respective elective agencies and a hybrid of private and public entities to get together and complete some of the projects we've worked on. We have attended meetings with Representatives James Torrance's quarterly community leaders meeting was held on the 8th. Met with Wanada's group on I believe it was the 24th, and a legislative pre-session. The only other issue in the neighborhood that I'm still kind of holding back on, waiting to see what's going to happen, was with Tune Up City, the convenience store there. They haven't gotten back with us regarding the abandoned and the disabled vehicles, their plans as far as keeping the lots clean and parking. So that's where we are.
Thank you, Arlen. Busy month. Okay. Rolando.
Good evening, everyone. I don't have much to share today. Um, in the newsletter, they did not publish the community crime reports, so I don't have anything to share.
And I just put in the chat this BC dot survey that they're circulating for Baltimore Vision Zero to report places where you might have been near hit, hopefully not hit, but nearly hit by a motor vehicle, so they could plan interventions for those areas. So if you have had that experience where you've been at a dangerous intersection, either in the neighborhood or outside of it, and you want to report it to the city, you can click that link and fill it out on your own time. It doesn't have to be right now, but whenever you're ready, or just have it handy. If it should happen to you, I hope not. Okay, we've made it. We're a little bit behind, but not too shabby. So we're going to jump right into our discussions. So up first is 600 West North Avenue. And would anyone from that group, from either Blank Slate or MCB, need host privileges so you can share your slides?
Yes. Could you,
Okay.
would you mind giving Dory Farley host privileges?
Of course, no problem.
Thank you.
And you should be able to share. I'm going to stop mine. So welcome. We have Alex Aaron here, and I saw Teresa. Yeah, Teresa Stegman. Welcome.
Good
And
evening, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
take it away.
Sure. So I just want to start off saying hi. I've been to a couple of these meetings before. It's always great to be back. Just before we dive into what I know you all want to hear about, just wanted to give a general update on Reservoir Square as a whole. So the townhomes continue to sell. We're around 40 sold right now. So you have a bunch of new neighbors, and hopefully they have also started getting engaged with your group. So that's continuing to progress, and we're doing a lot of the punch list stuff to finish up all of the site work on that piece. And then we were able to close successfully tax-exempt bond financing for what we've been calling Parcel A, but will be the new headquarters for the Mayor's Office of Employment Development. So that closed at the end of last year, and then we anticipate mobilizing at the beginning of March. So you'll start seeing construction crews on site. We're finalizing all of our maintenance of traffic efforts. So I'll be back in touch with what the pedestrian pathways and everything will be during construction. But we're just so thrilled that was able to move forward, and you'll see this beautiful building go up. But otherwise, I always say this because I feel like you can't say it enough. Thank you so much for your patience as we've gone through the process of investing millions into this site, and all of the site work, and dealing with all the entitlements and everything else. Just sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear the background sounds. I can hear my kids being obnoxious downstairs. But thank you for your patience. We're not perfect, but we do try to be good neighbors. If anything ever comes up with the construction of any portion, please feel free to reach out to me. A couple of you have in the past, and we've tried to be very responsive, so we'll continue to do that. And I'm just so excited now to turn things over to Alex Aaron, who we have been working with over the past year or so, as we've been, figuring out the future of Reservoir Square, and how we deliver the grocery store, and started collaborating with Blank Slate Development, and this opportunity came up to acquire 600 West North. So I'm going to turn it over to Alex to, introduce that partnership and, how we've been thinking about the site.
Thank you, Teresa, and good evening, everyone. I'm Alex Aaron with Blank Slate. It's good to see you all again. I wanted to touch on our strategy and schedule for 600 West North Avenue. This project is, as I've said before, is meant to be a single-story retail experience. We do not intend to go vertical and build on top, so it will be, as you'll see in a site plan in a second, kind of a single story retail experience. The anchor there is meant to be a grocery store, but we do want to include some other tenants at the site to include food and beverage tenants, as well as kind of some service-oriented uses. And as far as timeline is concerned, our goal is to make a grocery store development announcement and kickoff of demo within the next 4 to 5 weeks. And shortly, right thereafter of the announcement, we'll begin demolishing the existing structure on that site. We will secure the site with a temporary fence. And then the remainder of this year throughout 2025 is meant to be design and permitting and kind of entitlement work, with the goal of potentially having a permit by the end of the year so that we can kickstart construction in 2026. So Q1 or anytime early 2026 rather is the first time you're going to see real construction on the site. But as I mentioned, we will be securing it and demoing the existing building in the interim. So I'm going to pass it off to Dory, so now we can get into the fun stuff and start to see what it will look like.
Thank you, Alex. Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet all of you. My name is Dory Farley. I'm with MCB, working with Alex and Teresa on this project. And so here is what Alex mentioned in a visual. So he mentioned single-story retail. It's exactly what I'm showing here on the screen. I don't know if you can see, no, you cannot see my mouse, but anchored by a grocery store, about 13,000 square foot grocery store, and there will be a wine and spirits shop operated by the same operator as the grocer. In addition to the wine and spirits and grocer, we will have retail, like Alex mentioned. I do want to point out we are focusing on the corner retail here at West North and Park to be food and beverage. It may not be the only food and beverage, but we definitely want to use that corner retail to add pedestrian seating, outdoor seating to experience the food and beverage that we anticipate moving into that space. Other retail uses would be service and potentially additional food and beverage uses as well. As the project progresses, we will be able to narrow down those uses a little bit more, but I do open that as an opportunity. My email will be at the end of this presentation. What do you want to see there? There's a bunch of uses that could go there, but we're really curious on what your feedback might be for retail uses in that area. We are focusing on pedestrian experience as much as vehicular experience. So this slide shows you the pedestrian route as well as the vehicular route. Vehicles will be able to enter the site off of West North Avenue and Park Avenue. We will have off West North Avenue, call it a right in, right out entrance and exit. And then off of Park Avenue will be a traditional entrance and exit for vehicles. With that said, pedestrian experience just as important. Well, I don't know if there's a question. There is a Q&A session very shortly, and we'll be able to answer any questions after that. But for pedestrian experience, there are a couple things I want to point out here. First is the vestibule that connects the wine and spirit shop to the grocer. And so, again, probably can't see my mouse, but right in between the wine and spirit shop and the grocer, you'll see some cross hatches. That shading is showing a vestibule that will be enclosed. In addition, we have a pedestrian pass through just to the left of the wine shop, and that allows people to walk through the site. When you're parking your cars, you can walk into the front of the retail, or vice versa. Walking along North Avenue, you can walk back to the other side of the retail. And so I wanted to point those things out. The last thing I want to mention is, I'm actually going to go back one slide and show this a little bit clearer, is the bump out that we are proposing for the sidewalk at the intersection of Park Avenue and West North Avenue. This gives us a few things. First and foremost, pedestrian safety. We want to expand that sidewalk as much as possible, and we're actually mirroring the existing condition on the other side of Park Avenue. So we're not creating anything new, we're just mirroring what works well on the other side. And so that enhances pedestrian safety and gives some parallel parking spots in front of the retail. And so that is the last thing on the site plan I wanted to call out. And now for the prettiest of the pictures. Here is some design inspiration that we are working through. We are working with our architect team to design a historic yet modern and functional building. And ways we are doing that is incorporating brick facades to match the historic beauty that already exists in the neighborhood today, but adding a pop of color and maybe some other materials such as porcelain or cement to modernize it, brighten it up a little bit. What I'm showing in the top left corner is MCB's most recent retail development project. This is actually, some of you may recognize it. It's the Rotunda in Hamden, and the construction fence, if it's not down today, it's coming down tomorrow. And so you'll be able to see a historic and modern renovation that MCB just completed. We've included some other inspirational photos. We anticipate adding a little pop of color with the brick to help contrast at this site. And Alex did mention an announcement to announce the grocer and kick off our demolition schedule. With that, there will be some renderings that we're working on right now to show you exactly what this building at 600 West North Avenue will look like. And with that, I'm going to leave this slide up as we jump into Q&A, and then I'll share my email after.
Okay, thank you so much, Dory, and thanks to everyone, Teresa and Alex. So how we're going to do question and answer is if you can just go ahead and either use the raise hand function, which can be found at the bottom of your screen in the React. If you have a React button, there is an option to raise your hand. The other thing you can do is simply write your question in the chat, and I'm happy to ask the question for you if you don't want to be vocal about it. But if you all can raise your hands, it would be the best way to organize it. And I'm going to continue to mute people before if you're not live with asking a question. So I don't see any questions. Oh, yes, I do. From chat, I see. Okay, so iPhone Everlean is what is making the noise. Unmuted if you can mute them. Okay, so I will try to find that person, but I don't see them right now. Okay, so does anyone have any questions from this presentation tonight? No questions? I find that shocking. Okay, so I guess it's up to us to ask the questions, the board members. So I had a question. You separated the two different types of retail that you wanted in the area to be service oriented or food and beverage. And I was wondering, can you define what that means? What is a service oriented commercial retail?
Sure. So there's a loaded question because there are hundreds of things that could fall under the service category. The most common service retail uses that you will see: nail salon, hair salon, dry cleaning, financial, bank. It's essentially a retail use that you walk in and you get something out of in terms of service, not a physical good. It's the best way to describe it.
Okay, so it's a very broad category.
It is. And essentially, bring it back down to goods and services. If you can walk in there and get an experience out of the retail, that's what we're looking for, as well as receiving goods, whether that's you receiving your food or a shopping area. We're trying to mix both goods and services here.
Okay, awesome. So I know a question that a lot of people had after the initial presentation was, since this is kind of taking the place of the grocery store that was slated initially at Reservoir Square, what is the change in square footage? I heard it's you say that it was between 12 to 13,000 square feet for the grocery store. Previously, what was slated when the grocery store was at Reservoir Square?
I believe it was 15,000 square feet. And in terms of the square footage reducing a couple thousand square feet, we are, because it's a standalone building and not the ground level of a larger building, we can be a lot more efficient with this grocery store, or grocery store. And so that's why we can provide the same goods in this grocery store as the last one, but because it's a standalone building, we have more flexibility and more efficiency.
Another question, before I move on to that question that was asked in the chat, what kind of, you said you would be able to retain the same types of layout or the same types of items. Can you, for the good of the group, just go over what you envision for the grocery store? What will residents be able to find stocked on the shelves?
Sure. So this will be a traditional grocery store. You will be able to find brand labels at this grocery store, fresh produce, and this grocery store will also have a pop-up cafe. And so there will be a small section for already made fresh food, and the concept may or may not change and evolve over time, but there will be a cafe space in this grocery store.
Thank you. Okay. Melda asks, how many floors will parcel A be?
Parcel A is the office building. Teresa, are you on? Can you share the floors for that?
Yeah, hey Melda. So parcel A, or the new headquarters, will be four stories total.
Okay, thank you. Eric Johnson asks, what was put in place of the original grocery store location?
Yeah, so we are studying that right now. What we've been calling Parcel C, the northwest corner of Park and North Avenue. We're working through the numbers and trying to figure out, what we can build there. We're still trying to do some sort of multifamily building, and part of the beauty of bifurcating the two sites and doing the standalone grocery is, as Dory alluded to, it becomes a lot more efficient. Putting a grocery store in the ground floor of a multi-story building, we have to deal with venting, loading, and so it definitely helps the viability of Parcel C. So we're still working through that. And any multifamily building that we may put there, the goal would be to still have some presence on the ground floor so that we would mirror the retail across the street, so that they, can play off of each other.
But I'm hearing that there isn't, sorry, I'm just making sure, just for clarity's sake, that there isn't any consideration that there might not be commercial on the ground floor on North Avenue.
If it is a multifamily building, there would, planning's going to require that there be some amount of retail on the ground floor, and we would want to do that, right? Having an ownership interest across the street, retail is strongest when you have it on either side of the street. So you probably noticed me being very careful with my words, because we're still trying to figure out what is going to be viable there. Between interest rates still, not bouncing back the way we hope they would, all the noise at the federal level, grants, it's no longer New Markets tax credit eligible. There's just a lot of challenges. But I think what we've shown over the past, almost 10 years is that these are challenging projects to complete, but we are very persistent and we will stick with it, and something will happen with that site. We'll continue being very open with our communication with the community once we have a sense of, what can actually be accomplished there.
Okay, thank you. 2 questions back to back about the name of the grocer. What's the identity of the grocer? Has the store committed? And what is the name of the store?
We are very close to being able to announce the grocery store, and we cannot wait. We anticipate announcing the grocery store in a few weeks from now at a community event that RHA will be a part of, and you will see an invite shortly.
Okay. Any other questions? I can't believe how quiet people are being on this topic. This is the quietest our group has ever been, and definitely the quietest I've ever seen anyone be about this topic. So
Let me do this. Let me put this slide up for the next minute, and that is my email address. Please email any questions, suggestions. We want to hear from you guys and stay in touch. So I'll leave this up here for a second.
So I know that there was some concerns voiced the last time the community met about 600 West, specifically from neighbors who abut the building, about the way that waste would be managed, parking, and how the abutting neighbors could potentially be impacted by construction and then into operation. And I was curious, how do you plan to work with the community to mitigate any kind of impact to neighbors, especially the neighbors that are adjacent to the property?
Sure. So a few things there. First and foremost, we are developing this, but we are also going to manage this. And so we want to see this through successfully, even when tenants are already open and operating. So we're not going anywhere, and we want to make sure this stays beautiful and clean as much as the neighbors do. And so I can assure you on that. In terms of what we're actually doing to get that done, we will have a dedicated property management team on this site. And we have, if you can see on the site plan that I'm showing on the screen now, our loading, our service, and these rectangular objects, our dumpsters, we are keeping them in a condensed area to maintain the waste, and we're not putting them back up against people's homes.
Okay.
And there was another part to that. In terms of construction, will there be a year or so of construction and trucks and piles of dirt? Yes, there will. That needs to happen in order for this to be beautiful. And so, like Teresa mentioned earlier, we are incredibly grateful for the patience that you guys have given us as the other parcels or the other lots come to fruition, and with the office building starting and the townhomes that have already started to get built. There will be some trucks and construction that won't look too pretty for a year, but it's going to be beautiful after that construction is over, and we're really excited for that.
Thank you. So Adrian asks, how did the wine and spirit store come to be included in the plan?
Sure. So the wine and spirit store, like I mentioned, is part of the grocery operator. And so this specific grocery operator, the ones that we talked to for this site, all were interested in a wine and spirits concept. And so it was really partially what the grocery store was able to operate, and there were neighbors that were interested in having a wine shop here.
Okay, thank you. And Carl Young, I saw your hand up, but then you put it down. Did you still have a question?
And I'll just mention real quick too, before we go to the next question, the wine shop was always a part of parcel C, so we're just carrying that over here.
Okay.
And this is Carl Young. I just wanted to actually have a comment. I'm a neighbor that's abuts the back of the 600 West North, and I attended a meeting that MCB and Blank Slate gave last week. And I just want to report that the neighbors are generally positive and optimistic following the presentation that they gave. We'll have some, small questions about, how making sure that MCB is going to be a good neighbor, and they maintain that they are going to be a good neighbor. That's all we need. We need a good neighbor that's going to be quiet, take care of their messes, not be too loud, not be too light. So yeah, it was a very good presentation. We appreciate the time that they gave us for that. So thanks very much.
Thank you,
Carl.
Yeah, thank you for that insight. It's really helpful. Not all of us were able to or allowed to attend that meeting, so it was very helpful to know how it went. So thanks for sharing that. Pamela B asked, would our own fresh produce grown in this community be used or sold?
That actually came up in a previous meeting as well. And I can assure you that we will talk to the grocery operator about their produce and where they're sourcing it from. We are not operating the grocery store, so I cannot speak to that, or MCB and Blank Slate cannot speak to that directly, but it's definitely something that we will share with the grocer.
Thank you. Okay. So we're going to be looking at all sorts of produce and brands. Adrian, I see, has a comment. In the plan, the lot is opening up to the alleyway parallel to Park Avenue. How will you keep traffic from diverting into the alley?
So there will be green buffer separating the alley and the parking lot. And we will have enhanced signage at all the entrances to show where the entrance to the site is off Park Avenue and West North Avenue. There will be no directions going into the alleys. We do not want customers going into the alleys. You do not want customers going into the alleys, and so we will buffer those.
Any plans for EV chargers?
I believe, yes, we are studying the possibility of having EV chargers on the site.
Okay, guys.
Oh, they're rolling in now.
It's the last minute. Any concerns with stormwater runoff?
We are working on a stormwater management plan that will eliminate any concerns of stormwater runoff.
What are the proposed days and hours of operation?
Those are to be determined as we continue to fill our retail uses with restaurants and uses and service uses and things like that. And so I can't speak exactly to what the hours would be, but you can imagine a restaurant hour and a grocery store are usually 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., something like that. A restaurant's a little bit longer for the dinner crowd, but we do not have any definite answers for the hours at this time.
Okay. What will happen to the lot between the initial demolition and the beginning of construction? Any temporary greening or beautification while it sits vacant?
So what we are demolishing, starting in about a month or two, is the walls of the structure. And so anything that is flat, the parking lot, the floor of the building, it's all going to stay for the next year. We are not removing any existing greenery or shrubs unless they're touching the building right now in the next year, and so those will remain.
And we're actually, while we go through the Maryland voluntary cleanup program, we're not allowed to touch the dirt. So we're going to be, our hands are going to be a little tied. And then we want to keep the communication open and fluid with the neighbors, with RHA, to make sure that, whatever happens in the interim, that, we're not creating a nuisance and not creating an eyesore. So, we're here to keep that conversation going.
Two. Thank you. Adrian asked, what does buffer mean? I think this is in relation to the green buffer.
Yes, I'm actually going to tackle the next two, the buffer and Charles' comment as well. So
Okay.
Buffer, in other words, is a separator of two pieces of land. So when I'm saying green buffer, I'm saying a patch of grass, bushes, trees, natural greenery to buffer or separate two areas. And Charles, yes, we do have a civil engineer that is working on the stormwater retention, and some buffer zones may or may not be used for stormwater.
And just to chime in here, I know it's kind of hard to see everyone, but if you take your eyes to the bottom right hand of the screen, where the red bus line stops, right? And then you see a green bush, where the red bus line stops in the drawing here on the site plan, that's actually the alley. So you can't really see it, but there's still an existing alley behind Mount Royal's properties. So there will be an alley for the homeowners to use, and then we'll put that shrubbery so that customers are not confused and driving up in the alley and, causing traffic behind properties. So that greenery, excuse me, that greenery all right there is meant to be the buffer between the alley and then the actual parking lot of the retail plaza. And it'll follow its way all around to Park Ave and Watt Street, excuse me, creating that buffer between the properties and the parking lot. And then someone asked, will we have a contract signed before the ground breaks? So we're working diligently to execute the lease of the grocery store. So at the development announcement, hopefully we'll be able to announce the actual grocer. But apart from that, we're still working on the retail side, and mainly we want to hear from you all, right? Customers and residents of Reservoir Hill, what you all would like to see in your community. So as we hear from you all, we go back to the design team and our brokers and retail contacts and see what we can anchor here. But yes, to answer your question, definitely at the development announcement, we hope to announce the grocery store.
Okay. Any plans to kind of break up that giant median in West North Avenue so it's easier to cross the street? Make
That's
more
a good
pedestrian pathways?
That's a good question. Dory, I'll take this one and you can chime in. So the medium between Bolton Hill and Reservoir Hill is city owned, it's public, so we're not able to alter it at all. But as Dory alluded to earlier, what we are trying to do, and you can kind of see it here on the site plan, currently the bus lane would run all the way, up North Ave and cross over Park Ave and continue. We're not proposing eliminating any public transportation. The bus stop still down by Mount Royal will still be there, and the one on the other side of Park Ave will remain. But what we are doing, as Dory mentioned earlier, the sidewalk across Park Ave bumps out a little bit, and that is a traffic calming buffer. We want to add that to this corner of Park and North. And obviously redo the crosswalks. We know this is a heavy traffic area from students of Mount Royal Elementary and neighbors alike crossing between Reservoir Hill and Bolton Hill. So we do hope to slow it down with that buffer. And again, not forcing people to park or having to go in the rear of the property into the parking lot, but simply coming off North Ave, and they can parallel park there, as you see in the drawing, and walk into the grocery store. So we will do our best from what we can control to kind of slow down traffic at that corner and make it more pedestrian friendly.
Okay, I see two final comments we'll say, because we do have to give time or need to give time to St. Francis. So if you are burning for a question and you just cannot wait to send this email, speak now or forever hold your peace. We're going to go to Adrian and then Councilman Torrance.
Thank you. Hi, Alex. This is probably easier to ask. This is a continuation from my earlier question that I put in the chat. I'm one of the neighbors here on Lenox Street, adjacent and abutting the property. And my concern, I was at the previous meeting, so my concern actually speaks to the alley, not on the east corner, but on the west corner where Watts meets, the very narrow alley that you have there on the north west part of the map. That seems to me like a very high traffic, delivery trucks, cars coming in and out from Park Avenue. And I see that as being like an area that's going to get clogged up easily. And so I can envision cars trying to get out and then that alley becoming a high trafficked alley. And so we're actually on one of the homes that stretches the entire alley in the corner there, above this picture. And so I'm wondering, there was talk of a buffer. Is there a possibility of doing something in that alley where maybe traffic would be restricted from going from the lot directly into the alleyways behind our house?
Yeah, good question, Adrian. And it kind of goes to what I was mentioning earlier about the houses on the Mount Royal side. If you look at the top left part of the screen where Park Ave meets Watts, um, you'll see, and you can barely see it in the site plan, but there is shrubbery again where there's the true kind of public right away in the alley that then you can clip that left and head up towards Lenox. So both along Watts, and then again as you turn right there where you see some blue and red parked cars, there will be a continuum of shrubbery. And as Dory mentioned earlier, and on the next slide, Dory, if you want to go back to the circular plan, as far as inflow and outflow, people are not meant to come up to Park Ave to make a left to come in through there on Watts. They're meant to come off 83 off North and come into the plaza. If they are coming into the plaza and not parallel parking out front, they're meant to come in through this rear section closer to Mount Royal. And then again, they can come out that way. But yes, we will have shrubbery and a buffer there. So it'll be very clear what is the property of 600 West North and what is maybe the alley or public way. So
And Adrian,
answers.
simply put, we're missing some trees on the site plan that will
Yeah.
be there.
Yeah, and
I see
yeah,
what you're
no,
talking about.
I
There'll be
understand.
shrubbery there.
There's actually an alley there. So my question was, will cars still be able to go in that alley from the lot and where Watts Street is? Not Watts itself. There's an alley there perpendicular to Watts Street behind the homes.
Yeah,
Yep.
understood.
Yeah.
No, they will not. They will not.
It'll be
Unless
blocked. You'd have to come out to Watts, like make a right and a U-turn almost to go back down there to go up the alley. But good question, and thank you for that.
Thanks. And there will be no blocking of public waste. So the DPW will be able to access all the alleys and okay.
And Adrian, sorry, you might have heard it on the last one, but that wall too, there's that it's kind of an elevated site. So we are still studying a type of kind of wall, if you will, that will separate those properties behind this parking lot so that again, there's still an additional buffer in addition to like the green shrubbery.
Okay. And have you gotten approval for making parking on North Avenue? Because it was I had the understanding that there was no parking allowed on North Avenue, that they closed that off so that there could be rapid bus lanes. So has that already been approved by the city?
No, we have started the approval process with the city. And we've had a couple meetings so far. We're continuing meetings with them to go through the process of getting this approved.
Okay. Councilman Torrance?
Hey guys, just want to address the median question. There is infrastructure underneath the medians. The medians are there to serve a purpose. That is access to our electrical conduit system, fiber optics, as well as MTA has vent shafts underneath the median. Just an FYI, we can't actually move things underneath there. There's also a gas line there too. FYI.
Good to know. That's unfortunate because it's really a hazard for the pedestrians. It's horrible walking down North Avenue. And if we want more pedestrian traffic into retail, it's an obstacle for retail on North Avenue. So it's sad, but we're on the right side of the street. So I guess we can be happy about that. All right. So without any other questions, I'd like to thank Dory, Alex, Teresa for coming tonight. Thank you, Dory, for leaving your email address. Please take it down, folks, especially as we're moving into demolition. Dory, is this who we would contact if people had questions or concerns as we're moving through the stages of demolition into construction next year, next January? Is this where folks should email?
Yes, either myself, Alex, or Teresa. But you can email me. Any one of the three of us will get back to you. But feel free to send me a note to this email right here.
And I heard that there's going to be a larger neighborhood meeting at some point and then a big kickoff meeting into the future. Do you all have dates for those yet?
We are nearing a date for those. We are looking, they will be soon. We're looking at the end of February, early March. But we will notify you as soon as we have that date nailed down.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for taking out the time tonight to meet with us, and we look forward to hearing the future announcement, obviously, especially about the grocery store, who's going to be named, and any future timeline information. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Torben, for your patience because we're way over your presentation time. But I want to give Torben the floor. Do you need co-host privileges as well for your
I
presentation?
do. I
Okay.
do.
So you should be co-host now and be able to share your screen.
All righty. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I am going to share my screen now. All righty. So thank you for having me on. Um, so as it was mentioned earlier, we did have a mini walkthrough of what we're talking about today, the land swap. Um, I believe we have some representatives of the city on who are going to help with this, but I'm just going to get right into it and kind of show the timeline of what um, happened with the land swap and kind of seeing how this solves a bunch of problems. So I'm just going to get right into it. So right here you see, if you can visualize German Park on the White Lock side, and you visualize that sidewalk that leads into German Park, um, you will notice that the sidewalk, if you look at these screens, the sidewalk to the right, St. Francis Neighborhood Center actually owns that property. So essentially, the city's sidewalk is transversing over St. Francis's property. If you notice, some of the property lines are very, very rigid and aren't uniform. So if you look on the left side of the sidewalk, which you see on the right-hand side of your screen, there is
Yeah, talk about the St. Francis Center. I'm trying to listen. See what they're doing with that.
I'm sorry, was that a question?
It wasn't. Someone just accidentally unmuted. Go ahead.
So if you look on the left side and visualize, there's a little square or triangle area that the city actually owns that little piece of property as well. So what we're looking to do is to swap those pieces to make everything uniform. Let me see if I can go to the next screen. I don't know if this helps a bit, but I put it up here. That little piece, if you can see where it's sort of pointing at, it's zoned R7. And you can see where St. Francis is, where 2405 is. So that area is not zoned open space, it is R7. And basically what I do is give you the timeline of the process. So the conversation started with the Office of Real Estate in October of 2022. We inquired to see if we could purchase that lot. After inquiring about the possibility of an off-street parking driveway to keep our vans off the street, um, uh, for certain reasons, the vehicles have been vandalized, they've been hit by city buses and ticketed. So I don't know if you know, on one side of White Lock Street, commercial vehicles can't park on there. So whenever there is a street sweeping, whenever there's a street sweeping, we have to move it to the other side of the street. And whenever that happens, we get ticketed because it's on a non-commercial parking side of the street. So we were looking to put a parking driveway that would solve that issue. But during that conversation, the city noticed that the sidewalk entrance was transversing our property. Um, so so we applied for a minor subdivision in 2023, which would allow for the transfer of those two parcels, because it was suggested that would be the easiest way to solve this problem, an issue. And so moving forward during April 2024, the Planning Commission met and they approved the minor subdivision. A sales ordinance for the land swap was prepared by the Office of Real Estate and it was introduced to the city council for approval. And we're here today because we want to make sure that we are letting the community know further about what we were planning on doing to solve these issues. So what does it solve? It solves the problem of the city property transversing on our property and a bunch of liability issues. It creates an even and logical property line in that area. It also helps free up parking space on a narrow and busy street. As we know, that the area can get very tricky. And it also allows us to secure our vehicles in a safe and monitored space. So that's pretty much what I have as far as a presentation of what's going on with the land swap, but we do have other people from the city here to answer questions or possibly have anything else to say. So I don't know if Lamella or anybody has anything they want to add to this.
I'm gonna take that as a no. Does anyone have anything to add to the presentation?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
Corbin, I just wanted just wanted to let you know that we, I and a couple of the team from Rec and Parks are here. If folks had any additional questions that we might be able to help with.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Torrance?
I just have a clarification for Slat. This has not been approved. I had the bill withdrawn from the council until the community would forward a letter of support. Both agencies dropped the ball, whether it be the comptroller's office or planning, did not, as well as Rec and Park, well, all three, which we will figure out amongst ourselves as a city government on communication and making a clear communication and notification to the community. So they're here to give the proper notification before any introduction does happen. Because of councilman courtesy, the bill cannot be introduced unless I sign off on it, and I can't sign off on it until you guys approve it. That be it.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
I had a
Councilman.
question. Did the city give the reason why they weren't amenable, they wanted to do the land swap? What was the reason?
I'm going to let Rec and Parks answer that, but as far as what I know is it was the easiest way to solve the issue that we had with the city transversing on our property. It also made a clean and clear uh, basically lines of where property lines are in that area. But I can let Park and Recs answer if they have anything beyond that.
Oh, all right then.
This is Tim Almaguer. I'm the Chief of Community Engagement and Strategic Partnership for Baltimore City Rec and Parks.
All right.
No, I mean, we goofed. So we actually put a sidewalk right through their property as a way to get into the park, German Park from Whitelock. And it kind of created that weird little triangle. So you can see from the drawing, it's a strange property delineation because we had somehow the park is kind of wrapped around St. Francis's space. And we were trying to get access from Whitelock into the park, and we didn't know. We transversed their property. And frankly, it's encroachment. We encroached their property, and they needed a parking lot. We felt that there's a simple lot line adjustment would be an easy solution to this. And it went through planning, and then planning has a process. There was a sign put up. There is a meeting that they had back in April that was open to the public. So we went through that normal process that we would do with any kind of minor subdivision. So that's how we got here.
And I'll add, as far as the land swap, another reason is, like he said, is they needed access to the park. Obviously, there is another way to access the park, but the egress was a main thing they wanted to have on that side of the park, and this made sense to do that in order to have that egress.
So Torben, just so that we're all fully understanding, that really small triangle is now property of St. Francis.
Yes,
And now that small triangle will become the property of the city.
correct.
And then this larger triangle on the right-hand side, is that right? Is property of the city currently, and it will become property of St. Francis. Or do I have
Correct. And
it
it's
backwards? Okay. I just wanted to make
correct.
sure. Okay.
Yeah, and it's and if you notice it's parallel to our property. So you can see how that kind of makes sense to just swap that out there.
Okay. So, because I know that that was a question that we had on the walk. What's the difference in square footage between the two properties? Are they kind of similar sizes? It appears that what will become the what is city property is actually a larger parcel than what you're swapping for. So it's not an equal swap, but it's still on this in the city, and your opinion, the easiest way to deal with this encroachment.
And it solves the egress problem.
Okay. Any other questions? Now's the time if you have it. So while people are thinking, I just want to make it clear based off of what was said tonight, what the next steps are for RHA. So Reservoir Hill Association does write letters of support or opposition on changes like this. Councilman Torrance does not, the way that he moves his bills when it pertains to development, we've done this 100 times. He requires a letter from the community, either supporting or opposing a bill, right? He doesn't do this unilaterally. He requires community input. Typically, what we do is we have a vote either of the large general membership or of the planning and development committee, which decides whether we support or we oppose a change, right? So that could be someone as small and tiny as someone saying, hey, I have a single family home and I want to make a basement apartment. Do you support that? Or it has been as large as someone redeveloping historic multifamily. And, I think this is certainly not as complicated as many things that we've had to vote on. It doesn't seem like it requires a ton of research to understand the issue. It seems like the city is recommending this on Parks and Rec side. It seems like St. Francis is recommending this. And so what the point of this discussion in the question period is for us to ask any burning questions that we may have that might impede our ability to decide if we support or oppose this idea, right? So I encourage people right now, because what happens often is the meeting is over and then people have questions that I can't answer. And so this is the moment, if you have any questions, concerns, this is the time for the good of the group and for the membership and for the board for you to ask any burning questions that you might have that might be of concern while folks are here and able to answer them. So please ask the questions now if you have them. Arlen.
Yeah, just to be clear, looking at the map that you have here, you had stated that the golden triangle on the left is the city's property currently?
Yes,
Yes, and so after the swap, you'll get the golden quadrangle that's there, and the city will own the property above that. Is that correct?
that is correct.
Okay, just wanted to be clear. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Rolando.
So, are you planning, because you mentioned something about the vehicles, are you planning to create a parking space for those large van and this new location property that you're getting?
So on the narrow part of the triangle, if you're looking on the right-hand side, there we're looking to have a curb cut in order to have a driveway for our vehicles to get them off the narrow Whitelock Street.
So the yellow, the part that highlighted is what the city won't get, the larger part, if they give you the smallest part.
It's the opposite, Orlando.
Okay, no, because all in question, I don't think you understood all in question. The way I'm understanding your answer all in question was that the city that he asked you about the left. I don't know if your left and right is the same as ours, but as you stated, you be getting the largest portion, which is the largest section, which would be on my right of my screen. I'm trying to see the number. No, it's not a number there. Okay. So will that be an entrance for the collection of the private sanitation that you stated in the walk that you'll be having?
No, there is already a sidewalk where the private dumpsters that actually they have been ordered, just so you know, those will be rolled down the sidewalk that's already there to the curb for collection.
If I'm not mistaken, I think that curb, that sidewalk that you have there is not a straight sidewalk, it's have a curve. So
Well,
when you say dumpster,
so they're on wheels. It gets wheeled out. They're not huge, giant dumpsters. They're mid-size, so they're able to be rolled or pushed from the sidewalk down to the curb.
okay. So all that garbage boxes and everything that's presently on Linden's side will no longer will be there.
I would say 99% of the time they will not be there.
Okay. You're not giving me 100, but 99% is not satisfactory. What I would suggest, and this is going to be my main issue that I have, is presently the way things have been done and the garbage problem that you have there is out of control. It's not fair for the sanitation guys to be spending 10, 15 minutes picking up your garbage, especially the recyclable, because they're not in containers. And they spend a lot of time trying to get those boxes that you all have there stack up against a post and a garbage can. If I'm thinking the location that you actually have for the containers, I don't think that's big enough for the amount of garbage you all are actually having today. Even the recycle and the regular garbage, that area look extremely small. And I personally think, say it again?
I can answer to that. So
let me finish. I personally
thought you were asking a question because it just sounds like you're just stating things.
So my thing is I would like MOU, have an understanding that the area will be always maintained presentable and even around the sidewalk, and we won't have these problem of boxes flying around and whatnot. So
do other businesses have MOUs for something like this, or is this something that you just decide you want to do for St. Francis?
Yes, there's no other business. No, we're not taking it personal because you're making it sound personal. I'm going to problem that St. Francis has had for the longest time. Okay?
I hear you have a problem, and I hear you saying things, but on our end, we listened. We heard that there was an issue with like trash on the corner, and we decided we would find a way to fix that problem. So that's why we decided to get dumpsters and roll out dumpsters. So you're trying to make us do an extra step on top of that? That's what I'm trying to figure out. It's not personal.
It's not no extra
I feel
step.
like I almost feel like we're being attacked for trying to do the right thing.
Sir, I've spoken to you. I've spoken to everyone that at St. Francis about the boxes and the garbage. All right? If the city doesn't pick up the garbage, The garbage will remain, or the boxes will remain there for a week.
So
okay? They
let me get this
refuse,
right.
let me finish. They
We
refuse
just
to
said
put it.
problem solved. We have dumpsters, and you're still talking about trash. And this conversation is about land swap, not dumpster. So I'm just trying to figure out why
Okay,
we're being
what I
attacked
want
on
to
something here.
understand is that I have no problem with line swap, okay? If it makes it easier and what the name, it's fine with me. I just want to make sure that we are giving this line swap, but we have understanding that y'all need to do a better job in maintaining the area.
Well, you got to give us that chance.
Sir, I've spoken to y'all, and I've seen y'all constantly do things that violate city code. Okay?
So a dumpster doesn't
I want to
solve
leave
that
it there.
problem.
I just asked for MOU. If you're telling me you refuse to give it, or you don't want
I'm
to
not
do it,
refusing
it's
anything. I'm
fine.
trying to
I'm not
understand why you're trying to ask above and beyond what anybody else in the neighborhood does
Okay,
for us to do.
I don't think that's accurate, Torben. So when we write letters of support around development issues, there are three options. There is a fully support where you just support a bill. You can support with contingencies, or you can oppose it. And I think what Rolando is suggesting is that the community consider supporting with a contingency that the property that is being swapped is maintained within the standards of the community. It sounds like, Torben, that you feel like the changes that SFNC has already made will fulfill that obligation. So it's something that we can certainly explore. But I think if that's something that you feel like you have fulfilled and that you will be able to, with the dumpsters and the backsite that you've already built to store waste, you have told me that you're hiring a private contractor to deal with the waste management issue, that you will no longer be relying on the city for waste management. All those things together will put confidence within the community. And I will say it's not just Rolando who's voicing the concerns about the waste collection issues. He's voicing them because he, will speak up on that. But I have heard it from other individuals and have noticed it myself, right? But I think that is one way to move this forward, is that I think Rolando, and I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but I think that's what you're trying to suggest, that you recommend the community write a letter of support with an additional MOU, which is within the right of the community. And we have suggested that, Torben, just so you know, it's not anything personal when other folks have approached us for letters of support, whether it's for the BMZA or with Councilman Torrance. We've discussed this with him in the past. We have drafted MOUs with them because oftentimes, and I'm not saying this is the situation with you personally, folks will need that letter of support to move forward. They'll obtain that letter of support, but then backtrack on promises that were made before the signing. And so that's something that we've talked to planning about in the past to kind of shore up these agreements. Unfortunately, our neighborhood hasn't used them as much as many other neighborhoods in the city have, and to our detriment, because oftentimes city land is then given to a developer, but they don't maintain that land. And then we are the ones that end up having to plan cleanup days or whatever to maintain property that doesn't actually belong to us. I'm not saying that's what SFNC will do. I'm just saying that is a pattern that we have seen. And so that's the issue.
I totally understand that.
Okay.
Definitely. And I'll just add, we over the years, we have been maintaining that property. We have been cutting the grass. We have been going out picking up trash throughout German Park. So we're also part of that process of keeping the area clean.
Correct.
And that's why when we listened to the community about trash being out in the corner, maybe possibly even looking unsightly, we decided to say, okay, what is a good fix for this? We decided to put in dumpsters, because that wasn't even part of the construction at that point in time. So we added that expense to it to make sure we could fix that issue. And that's why we have those 2 dumpster spots.
And I think that will be an incredible improvement. And we really appreciate those changes that you're making. And we're all learning on how to advocate for the neighborhood that we want. And so, you know, these are just different tools that we have been told by other community members, members of the city, or city representatives. These are the tools that you use as a community to ensure that you're living in one that you want, you know, in the future. Arlen, you have a question or a statement?
Yeah, I was just looking at the diagram up here again. You had mentioned the smaller section, the smaller angle of this. It's going to be a parking lot, correct?
It is not going to be a parking lot.
What
It
is
is
it?
going to be a driveway, and it's not going to be close to where the sidewalk is, because that's where the city would like to have that egress to get into the park. It's
Okay.
going to be closer to the narrow part of that triangle that you see there. And it's going to be a driveway that'll be able to have two, possibly three of our vehicles off that busy street. Does that answer your question?
I'm just trying to visualize it. So it's going to be a driveway. So how would they enter the driveway? From the westernmost portion or the easternmost portion of that?
I would say the westernmost part of it. And like I said, we would have to apply for a curb cut in order to do that.
Okay. Yeah. Could you give us a little more clarity, like where the parking spaces would be for your vehicles on the property and where the cut would actually occur if you get it and things of that nature? So we
Yeah,
can take those.
absolutely. We're not quite at that point yet because it's sort of a want and not something that's actually done just yet because we had to make sure we could get the property first
Mhm.
for the land swap. So that's definitely down the road. We can definitely share that with RHA in the future, in a future meeting with more detail because we can't really do that right now because the lot, has trees and stuff like that. So we could definitely show that at another date.
So just for clarity, Torben, oh, sorry, Arlen, did you have any more questions for Torben?
No, I just need to be able to visualize how the vehicles would fit in, how they would enter the property, how they would actually leave the property. And since it's a park, concerned of the traffic, I'm for the swap, but I just want to make sure that it makes sense.
Yeah, that we
Yeah.
fully understand what's
And
happening.
yeah, and you can definitely, if you want to stop by anytime and find me, I can kind of walk you where the sort of the idea of where we would want this to happen. And it would make sense once you see it, but I can get why visually when you look at this, you can't kind of see it because it's just lines right now.
Exactly.
Okay, I'll take you up on that. Thanks.
Anytime, anytime.
Councilman Torrance.
Just wanted to speak to MOU. This is something that communities have been exploring in terms of having earnest conversations with people so that it's enforceable. But I just want to make sure for not only St. Francis' own awareness, but also for community's awareness, it appears that the park is zoned incorrectly. It should not be R7, it should be open space. So we would have to make sure that that fix is done with the land swap because technically, Torben, you wouldn't actually be able to put any impervious surface on the land. And that was a mistake by the zoning that was done in 2017. So basically, I don't want to transfer something that you can't use. And this is why I said the city has to have conversations with staff because no due diligence was clearly done on the staff side.
Well, yeah, and thank you for that information. And regardless if it's zoned a certain way and we couldn't put a driveway, we would still want the swap.
Thank you. That was my question too. So thanks for clarifying. Okay. Any other questions, folks? We are at time for sure. It's 8:32. But it's better to ask now so we can put everything out on the table. Because what we don't want is someone walking down the street one day and say, "Do you know that RHA signed a letter to swap this land and agreed on this thing?" We don't want that to happen. So to that point, Torben, when we last met with you all, we asked if the most affected neighbors around the property would be informed about the swap. Were you able to fulfill that piece?
Yes, partly. I do have a letter of support from Wildlife Community Farm. So on that side of the street, they're on one side, they're on the other. And I'm currently in the middle of getting a letter of support from the garden and from the community space across from St. Francis from RHIC.
Wonderful. So, just for the good of the group, this is something we mandate for anyone writing a letter of support, that the most impacted properties, that the neighbors that are closest to the property would be informed directly by the person requesting the letter. So, I think maybe there's just, if anyone wants to see the historic map, Chet has put a 1930s plat of the land in the chat. If you're just curious for that history, it's fascinating. And Lisa asks, well, we can't know a lot until due diligence is done. Will there be another discussion at a later date? So that's a good point. I think this would be good for everyone. So from here, what will happen, since we were able to present to the community, our next step after this point is to put forth basically a motion to vote whether or not we will write a letter of support as a organization. Usually that discussion, like that in-depth support or not, happens in the Planning and Development Committee. Arlen, do you think that's appropriate for this particular one, or is this something that you'd want to open to the larger community to vote?
I mean, it is kind of already opened up to the larger community now, so we can get some feedback. So it makes sense to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
So this would be a membership vote, a membership-wide vote. We'll put out a ballot and people will support it or not. And at that point, then we will either provide the letter or not. So it's pretty straightforward. Usually it might go into another committee, but it sounds like we're recommending just a general vote on it. So to that point, Lisa, is there another thing that you want? So I just want to make sure that everyone is satisfied by this discussion. Why would there need to be an additional discussion on this item at a later date? What would you be looking for?
Just because Councilman Torrance mentioned that, brought up the fact that due diligence hadn't been done previously and that further discussions have to be undertaken. So it doesn't sound as if it's completely finalized. So I'm curious as to what we would be taking a vote on in particular, since it's not final, or is it final? I guess I should ask. And I see Councilman Torrance has his hand up. So
Yeah, Councilman.
Mrs. Ward. So basically, you will give them approval to actually move forward with the land swap. My office will make sure that planning, as well as the land use committee, which this will be provided to, that the appropriate amendment be made in terms of the zoning. So we would actually have to do two things at once. One, do the land swap, but also make sure their zoning is appropriate, because this is a mistake in the zoning and is our. So typically, if you guys remember the debate that we had about the pool at Reservoir Hill Park and how it was open space and how no one wanted the parking lot next to the pool, this is simply the same thing. I just want to avoid that confusion by making sure that the zoning matches what the desire of the community is. In addition to that, just to let you know, Mrs. Ward and the community, my office has made it very clear to the comptroller's office and other city agencies that there will be no more sale of public land right now. The last time we did a sale to anybody, even a nonprofit, I think it was RHIC, and then we put a 10-year no development clause in the actual sale document, so they actually can't build any structure on top of it. We put that there because we've noticed throughout the city where we have a lot of development occurring that some people have acted as nonprofits, purchased the land from the city, then sold it to the developer years later and made a windfall, and the community didn't want it. So we tried to guard against all those possible things and protect communities. But ultimately, I just need a letter that says they can introduce it, and then I will put the people to work to fix the zoning and everything else in between.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So it sounds like the details would have to be worked out, but that is not, it would not have any bearing on whether or not we support whether the city can go forward with swapping the land itself. And that's what we need to focus on, whether we support, oppose, or support with maybe an MOU added to that. And so that's what you're going to see as a member in your inbox to vote on that issue, so that then we could then draft a letter for your approval. And as a reminder, those who are able to vote on this issue are members. Members are considered active and in good standing, who have attended at least 50% of the membership meetings in the preceding 12 months in person or confirmed on teleconference. So that's, again, why we ask people to change their names, because that's how we take your attendance and determine whether or not you are in good standing. And the reason for that is we don't want people to show up in droves on a hot topic, try to vote, and sway something when they're not actually participating in the organization. So that's kind of what we wrote into our bylaws to ensure that we have fair decisions for the community. So if you have any questions about your standing, if you're not receiving a ballot and you're confused about that, please do reach out to us at contact@reservoirhillassociation.org. And Melda has noted, please, please, please add your first and last name to the chat so we can keep attendance. So if you can't figure out how to change your name on your screen, or you're not used to doing that, go ahead and put your name in the chat so we have you on record. Even if this is your first meeting, this is the beginning of your 50%, right? So you can become a member in good standing throughout the year. We just want to make sure that we've recorded you. If you're attending as a couple, and only one name is on there, maybe you want to put the other person's name in the chat so that we can record you. And again, our contact is there if you have any additional questions. Contact@reservoirhillassociation.org. So we've made it. That was a long meeting, and you guys stayed very much alert and asking a lot of great questions. Does anyone have an announcement? Oh, Torben, the announcement's right here. Sorry, Torben, go. Your ribbon
Yes, so we do have our ribbon cutting coming up. It is April 26th. Everyone is invited. The ribbon cutting is at 10 a.m. We're going to have some just light refreshments. We're going to have the Baltimore Twilighters out. We're going to have all our local legislators out, and we're going to essentially have like 2 hours of like guided, self-guided, and guided tours of the center to show what's going on. I know I gave some tours with some people on this meeting already, and yes, there is a lot to show because there's a lot we're doing. So yes, I definitely want to invite you to the ribbon cutting. There is a link where you can register. It's just a free ticket. It's just so we know how many people are showing up. And not to be confused, the same day we are going to do a homecoming party, which is essentially our fundraiser. So we're going to be having you rep your alma mater. Just it's not super fancy, but you can dress up if you'd like. But you're basically repping your school, college, or neighborhood with your spirit colors. We do have a special guest, Dan Rodericks, who's going to be our keynote speaker. He has written stories about St. Francis in the past. He is sort of on his retirement tour. So that'll be fun to hear from him. And then, of course, we have DJ TNT, we have raffles, basically a fundraiser for everyone. And that does cost money because it is a fundraiser, but we would love to see everyone there. And if you'd like to sponsor, we also have those opportunities as well. I did put this in the chat, so if you wanted to download this, and you can pull this from the chat. And we're gonna have some fun celebrating something that's been 10 years in the making. And I definitely want to see everyone there. And I want to thank you for the time to share this.
Of course. Thank you so much for sharing with the community. And it's a beautiful, beautiful building, beautiful space. And I look forward to everyone in the community being able to access it. Does anyone else have any announcements for the good of the group? Upcoming events?
Hey, this is Eric. How you doing? How's everybody doing tonight? I do have a question while we do have the councilman. I hate to put him on the spot. Does anybody know who is in control of that police light siren that's on Linden and North Ave by the Amtrak stack? Uh, it just screams all night that somebody's trespassing and police lights are just blaring every night and affecting the neighbors on the block. Just wanted to know if anybody had a POC for that.
That's Amtrak.
That's Amtrak. Figured that.
You should follow 311 for noise complaint through the health department so we can find them.
Thank you. Will do.
Thank you.
I just wanted to a quick note. We'll add this event to the community calendar. If there are links, Torben, that are not a part of the what you shared, please feel free to send that to events. Thank you.
Will do.
Any
And
other
thank you.
announcements? Anything else? Due to the snow, the city did send out an announcement that street sweeping is canceled for today and tomorrow, I believe. So if you're wondering if you have to switch your car, you don't. But be careful outside. Oh, I think no, it's still going down. It's still coming down. So it's quite a lot of snow. So don't forget to clear your sidewalks, and to put down salt if needed, and be careful. Councilman Torrance, yes.
Please stay off the roads. The storm will be with us until Thursday morning. We're expecting 2 to 8 inches. Please stay off the road and make sure you're not a person we have to come get.
Thank you. Daryl.
The Garden Home Tour Subcommittee meets Thursday. That's bit.ly/RHA-events. Look on our social media. Come on out Thursday for the Garden Home Tour Subcommittee meeting.
Thank you. Anything else for the good of the group?
I have one last thing.
Oh, yeah.
This is heartily felt. If you have issues with your conditions of your alley, I just want to remind everyone that we do not plow alleys, and that if you would like to help us out to make sure that your trash is collected and is not missed, please shovel up to the middle of the alley, which you are responsible for by city code. And if not, just throw some salt down, because we cannot send our public works employees down alleys. We've had 2 traumatic brain injuries in the last 3 years. We've had people break in several bones and legs and everything else. And we've had neighbors use very profane language towards this to your solid waste employees who are picking up your trash because they can't go down their alley. And if you can't get down your alley, please, 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 if your trash can has your number on it, please roll it to the top of the alley and leave it there so they can clear it out. And then you don't have to worry about your trash being miscollected. If not, just follow 311 and we'll come to you as soon as things get better.
Thank you. Okay. I think that's it for tonight. If there are no other things to share, thank you for staying all the way to the end of this meeting. As always, we upload this meeting to our YouTube account. So if you missed anything or you could only come to part of the meeting, you can watch the remainder there. We'll have Lisa is going to work really hard on those minutes and get them online as well. And if you're not part of a committee, please consider joining one, get to know your neighbors and work on issues facing your community. And if I don't see you in committee, I would love to see you at the next general membership meeting. So wonderful to see new faces here. And we hope you come back and join the organization. Have a wonderful, wonderful night and happy Valentine's Day for those who celebrate. Have a wonderful, happy Valentine's Day and a happy Black History Month. Have a good evening. Goodbye.
Night.